Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I do appreciate your time, and I know you've just hit lockdown time, I think is right. So I hope you get over that particular problem very quickly indeed, and get back to normal again. What I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes or so is just give you a quick overview of the current state of Dragon speech recognition and give you the overview of some of the opportunities that hopefully you guys can take advantage of moving forward. What I'll do is talk a little bit about Nuance and give you an update on the company for those of you that know us before. For those of you that don't know of us, I'll give you an overview of where we're at the moment. Then I'll give you an overview of how Dragon solutions fit together, what they make up, and then focus in specifically on the enterprise solution, which is where we see the future of this product in the future, and finish up with a little bit of talk about the ideal customers for the product and a quick demo of how Dragon works. In terms of me, I've been with the company since 2004, so an awfully long time since it was a very small team. And for many years, Dragon speech recognition was the premier product of the company. It still is, but we expanded a lot. We started out as an imaging focused company that span out of Xerox in the States. And for many years, we provided all of the scanning software that came with first Xerox multifunction devices. You'd basically, in those days, and still to a certain extent today, you'd scan a piece of paper and then the software would look at the page, take the image of the page and turn that into text that you could edit, ultimately turned it out into a document that looked exactly the same one as the one you put into it so that you could do layout as well. We continued to specialize in that, but around about 2001, the company bought the remains of a company called Lerner and Houseby that I used to work for, which had a whole lot of speech recognition solutions, including Dragon as part of its portfolio. And since that time, the company has really focused in on speech recognition solutions. And then about 2 years ago, we became a lot more focused in what we were doing. As you'd be aware, for many years, Dragon was the premier, in fact, the only real speech recognition solution on the market for PC. And we're starting with Apple's Siri launch, oh gosh, probably 8-9 years ago. Speech recognition really became mainstream. It became available to everybody on all their mobile devices. Everybody got mobile devices, so everybody had access to either Siri or Google speech recognition, Cortana on the PC in more recent times. So speech recognition became something that was much more available out there, and something that became ubiquitous, and everybody started confusing Dragon with Siri and with Google and so on. So it's part of the message now is it's important to understand what the speech recognition offering that Nuance brings to the table actually is, and to get a little bit more discriminating about how that works. And I'll talk more about that later on. The company itself 2 years ago got much more focused than it had been. We sold off a division, we sold our imaging division to Kofax. So our Power PDF solutions are now available from Kofax. We spun off the part of our company that focused on automotive solutions in particular, so adding intelligent systems to cars. And we really honed in on 2 particular markets where we thought speech recognition had particular relevance and particular market potential, but also where we started to add layers on top of the speech recognition. So we started to add some of the machine learning capabilities that were becoming possible through the advent of big data and enough computer power to actually crunch that data and incorporate machine learning models, neural networks and so on, get information, get useful constructs out of that data that could be then used to solve problems. The 2 areas we focus in now are healthcare and the enterprise business. The Dragon products that I'm talking to you about today are officially hosted in the healthcare part of the business, and that's where we live, but we are distinct from the healthcare. So we focus on all the other uses, all the other markets for speech recognition apart from healthcare. We're a big company. We've got about 9,000 people around the globe. The sale of those divisions mean we've gone down from 15,000 people to become a little bit smaller. And we're represented in 45 countries. So it's a fairly significant company. Just to emphasize the leadership in conversational and cognitive AI solutions, we've got a whole lot of awards in that area as well, which you can look up if you want to find the details. But the goal now is to start adding intelligence on top of the speech recognition. So getting to what the popular conception of speech recognition is. I'll talk about that more in a minute as well. So Dragon Solutions. Speech recognition is something we feel that we've all known about since we were small. So those of you old enough might remember Star Trek. with Captain Kirk there, talking to the communicator and having an intelligent conversation with the computer in the Starship Enterprise. And basically the computer was able to understand what it was being told, and it would deliver information. So, you know, scan that planet, tell me everything about it, and the computer would take 2 seconds and give you all that information back. So in that case, the computer is a really good thing. It's understanding what the human is asking it, and it's delivering the information. It's really behaving as a servant. The other side was the evil eye on the right there, which is the HAL 9000 supercomputer from the Stanley Kubrick Space Odyssey in 1968, where the computer actually had quite a psychotic personality and was much less interested in keeping people alive. There's always been this yin and yang in the, I guess, with computing and technology in general, where speech recognition can be really good for us or really bad for us. The reality, of course, is that it's somewhere in the middle. But across all of this is the idea that speech is a natural way of interacting with technology. It's how we expect to work with other people, and it's how we expect to work with computers. We've always been typing to them or sending punch cards to them, but speech is a natural way of working with them. The reality, of course, as I said, is somewhere in the middle. Generally speaking, speech recognition it's useful at the moment. So if you have your smartphone and you dictate a text message in there, it's usually good enough to send. There may be some spelling mistakes that you can fix, but you can just send it if you're lazy, which a lot of people do, and send through a message that's intelligible. But it's not good enough for everyone, and it's not good enough particularly for professional communication. The main issues remain accuracy, which is the biggest one, of course, of getting what you said actually correct. The speed, it can be slow to perform. Often if it's running on a mobile device, it's usually any complex English sentence is being understood in the cloud. So the audio has to go back to the cloud, and then the results have to come back through. That means that it can take a while for that to happen, or you can be waiting forever because the internet's dropped out. And while this is fine in Silicon Valley, where you've got good connectivity, in places like New Zealand and Australia, it's less good because we're more spread out and the connectivity isn't necessarily there. It's also a case that speech recognition remains a big drain. It takes a lot of computing power to continuously monitor speech and turn it into text. That's less of a problem than it used to be, but it's still an issue for mobile phones and smaller devices. And overall, of course, poor cognition. These systems are designed to recognize originally just speech and turn that into text. They're not designed to understand your requests. And if you try and work across, say, Android, Apple, PC platforms and use speech commands, you'll realize that there's a different vocabulary for commands on each of those platforms. Even though it understands the speech, you have to learn what to say to it. The systems everywhere are not understanding general English language and comprehending it. They're relying on the user to understand what to say to them. The key point here is that Dragon speech recognition can get close to 100% accuracy for a single person. So the advantage there is if you speak to Dragon by yourself and you just use your Dragon profile, it will understand what you say. So Dragon is unique in that it works with a single person. It uses what's called speaker-dependent speech recognition, and it learns from what you sound like and also what you say. And it will increase in accuracy as it goes by, and you can train it on your documents as you go by as well. So in all of that, if you take nothing else away from the presentation today, this is what I'd suggest to you. Just in general, if a client asks you for a speech recognition solution, the things you should know is that Dragon's highly accurate for document creation. That's its niche now. It's still great benefits for people with OHS issues where they might need accessibility to computing technology, and Dragon is still great in that area. But for the broad populace out there, Dragon is best for document creation. That's what its niche is. If you write for a living, if you spend a lot of your time writing emails, reports, documents, filling out forms, Dragon can help you a lot with that. The other key thing is what Dragon doesn't do. It doesn't work for interviews or meetings, and this is probably the most popular request I get there. Nothing does a good job on that at the moment. It's still something that is probably 5 years away, getting speech recognition accurate enough to distinguish between who is speaking and what they're saying. It's a very hard job that's handled these days by a combination of hardware of audio devices that can pull out physically the speakers and align them to particular voices, but then also the recognition as well. It's getting there. If you look at some of our medical research of putting a computer in a doctor-patient interaction and working out what the doctor's saying to the patient, what the patient says back to the doctor, and trying to pull information out of that conversation. We're doing that at the moment now in its early stages, but it's taking a lot of data. We're having to record and focus. This is where all the big data stuff is relevant. You need the data to get it going, and speech is particularly important that in that regard. You need to get all the interactions that people are having and build up the neural networks that understand what's going on there. So Dragon is a single person product, but it's much better for writing than anything else. So things, speaker independent recognition systems like Siri, Cortana, etc., don't do anywhere near as good a job as Dragon for writing documents. So the key message is that Dragon solves a particular problem of getting people writing much more quickly. The value proposition to larger customers in particular, given the strains that are out there in the workforce at the moment, and now more than ever, a lot of people having to create a lot more documentation in a shorter time. So areas are increasingly having subject to governance requirements. So the current one in Australia and New Zealand are the financial service industries, where a lot of documentation is having to be delivered, and it's important that that documentation is delivered. So the workload for that documentation has added to people's jobs. They still have to do that job, and speech recognition can make sure that the document is completed and that the time it takes to do that is kept at a minimum. A lot of organizations are still using human transcription, and if you get people to dictate their own documents, that can be much more efficient than sending a document out for somebody else to transcribe, sending it back again, having to check it, correct it, etc., etc. And finally, the ability to talk into your mobile device or your PC and have that speech turned immediately into text means that you've got a much more immediate interaction with the documentation process. That means that you don't, if you're a social worker out in the field and you've seen four clients today, you don't have to go back and think, oh, at 9 a.m. this morning I saw Mrs. Smith, and did she have this problem or not? I can't remember if she had a sore wrist or what. And you've got to go back and remember stuff. It's much harder than just walking out of a meeting, sitting down, dictating for a few minutes and recording the interaction. So those are the main value propositions for organizations so far as Dragon is concerned. Okay, what can we sell people? And there's two general ranges. The first are the individual products, which are traditional PC Windows products that live on the PC and are licensed with perpetual licensing in the original time-honored fashion. There's two of those. We're up to version 15 with Dragon. Dragon's about 23 years old now, and it's had 15 versions. We're on version 15 right now. There's a product called Dragon Home, which is designed for home users and small office users, and it does a pretty good job for individuals and can be licensed on a perpetual model. Then for professionals that need better capabilities like dictation, the ability to do recordings and transcribe from recordings, a lot of professionals grew up using dictation with digital recorders. They can now use smartphones for doing that, transfer the audio to a PC either automatically or manually, and have that transcribed as a secondary system. So these two are individual licensing. I'm going to let Megan talk to you about or provide you with pricing for these, and they provide you with the basic tools that you can sell to either individual users or to small work groups. Once you get beyond that small work group capability, we have our enterprise products. And this consists of Dragon Professional Group, Dragon Legal Group, Dragon Anywhere Group, and Nuance Management Center. So the corporate value proposition there is, again, on the right-hand side. So all those savings, you can type it up to 160 words per minute. You can only speak at about a third of that rate. Even if you're a fast speaker, you can speak 3 times faster than you can type. Getting up to speed is really fast. Dragon accuracy rates are really close to 100% for most people. And it can also help with avoiding workplace issues like RSI, upper skeletal issues caused by having to type too much. So speech recognition can really improve that data as well. So Dragon can take a lot of those roadblocks in the documentation creation process for organizations that have groups of professionals working with documentation and make the whole process much more quickly. So a little bit of a deep dive on this. Dragon Professional Group is tiered licensing. I'll show you a quick slide of what that looks like shortly. We have pricing for academic and government organisations, as well as the general pricing. And these can be combined with our Nuance Management Centre to make management of users much more easily. So you can have traditional PC licensing where each machine has a copy of the software installed and they can go ahead and use it as they would normally. With Nuance Management Centre, there's a cloud-based or an on-premises server which can manage those licenses, and there's a login process where users connect to the server to make sure they're validated. If you want to reallocate the license, if somebody leaves and you want to give the license to somebody else, you just set up the new person in the Nuance Management Centre. They can then connect from their PC and they've got access to Dragon straight away. The licensing for Dragon Professional Group is per speaker, so it's one person using the system, and you need one license. You can use it on multiple systems. There's no restrictions there. This is what the tiered pricing looked like. Again, I'll refer you to Megan for pricing, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiers ranging from one license. So sometimes customers will just want to buy a single professional group level, but there's tiered pricing, and obviously the pricing decreases with each tiers, and you get credits as you go up. There's annual maintenance and support available as well for each of those at 15% of the original license price from Nuance. The Nuance Management Centre, as I said, it really lets you scale the solution here through to larger organisations where you might have hundreds of users. I think the biggest user we've got in Australia and New Zealand is probably a government department here, a federal government department in Australia here, which has close to 600 licenses. So that's the sort of scale that you can deploy these products at. And the Nuance Management Centre not only controls that license allocation, but it also shows you which users are actually using the software. So if you know somebody, if you want to check whether that person in Wellington is really using the software like they say they are, if you're a nasty IT person, you can actually check and see, okay, well, you only used Dragon once last week. We can really reallocate that license to somebody else. The nice thing here is that this actually gives us an entree into the IT department. So since we introduced Nuance Management Centre a couple of years ago, there's been a lot more interest from IT departments, whereas before Dragon was a kind of a user evangelical type experience where you'd get a couple of people really keen on Dragon, promoting it internally, and IT people often said, well, we don't want to see that. Now there's a really strong positive response from IT folk because they really like having this kind of control over an environment. They can manage what's going on. They can see that the software is being used and they know where the licenses are. They don't have to worry about those sort of things. So once you get beyond a few users, NMC is worth using. For smaller organizations, you can run that in the Nuance Cloud for an annual subscription. Larger organizations or organizations with security requirements can get a perpetual license on the Nuance Management server and have that running on premises as they would with their other systems. Dragon Anywhere is also available in a group form. This is a cloud-based service that runs on iOS and Android systems. So basically most mobile, well, I think all mobile phones now that Microsoft's not around. And it provides you with that cloud-based solution where there's a special purpose app that you can use to dictate, and that will give you instant dictation on your mobile device and show you the text on your mobile device. And then you can then send that text via email, you can save it as a document, etc. It's a separate product to Dragon Group, but if you've got Dragon back on your desktop, there is integration at the level of the management. So you can have NMC management for both Dragon Anywhere and Dragon Group, and you can share things like company word lists. So if you've got an organization with a large number of acronyms, like NASA's a good example, they have several thousand acronyms. Every time you invent a new space system, it has an acronym. You can do things like make dictionaries of those acronyms and provide them to everyone in the organization. There's also like a macro utility, a shortcut utility where you can make boilerplate text and have that appear when you give a particular instruction, and those auto texts can be shared between Dragon Group and Dragon Anywhere as well. So this gives you a solution on the desktop and also out on the mobile device as well. Finally, we do still make some hardware. We do have a USB standard headset that's relatively affordable at the lower end, and excuse me, The Power Mic 3 is a handheld device that came out of our healthcare environment. It's a really tough device. A lot of people don't like wearing a headset, as I am now, but this device gives you multiple buttons to control the software and to control the recording of your voice. And it's a tough device that is useful in an office as well as a medical clinic. Ideal customers. I mentioned financial services, and this is where we've been doing a bit of campaign in both countries the last little while because of the regulatory requirements and the organisational changes that are taking place there. The key thing is find customers that have roadblocks in their documentation processes. Usually the time taken to create a document will be an impediment. And if it's a larger organization, we can help with a pilot that will help them understand what's going on there. We can use the NMC system to set up people in a pilot environment and let them try out and hopefully quantify how much money Dragon can save them. So there's a cost associated with creating a document. It's quite easy to quantify. If you save half the time in writing a document, you can work out how much greater the throughput would be if you had that extra time, or how much time you have to spend with usually customer-facing issues. So if you're somebody like a policeman, you can actually be back on the beat, on the street, helping people rather than spending half your time back in the office doing reports. Same story for social workers, financial planners. You've got the ability to actually get the documents done in the first place where there's a compliance requirement, and there are usually big issues around getting the documents completed. So Dragon can help with all of these things, and they're relatively easy to quantify. Okay, so that's all I had to say today. And at this point, I'll hand it back to Megan and ask you if you have any questions.
Thanks, Derek. Really appreciate your time for that great overview. I'll have a quick look in a second and see if we've got any questions. And we'll answer those questions, and then we'll get Derek to do a quick demonstration of Dragon as well. In terms of pricing, you can always contact me directly as the brand manager or anyone in our internal sales team. But just to give you some ballparks, the Home, which is that very entry-level product, has a retail of about $265, including GST here in New Zealand. The Individual, the Dragon Pro Individual, which is the one we sell the most often, that has a retail of $530, including GST. And when you move up to the Pro group and that first entry level of 1 to 4 users, you're looking at $1,062, including GST per license. Other key differences between those is with the individual products, every license gets a new license key or serial number. When you move into what we call the enterprise, the group product, that's where you actually get one single serial number and you can add to your license as you go. Maintenance and support is highly recommended because that gets you access to all the right people in there. I, like Derek, have been working with Dragon for a very long time. I think since about 2002 here in New Zealand. I think it was just before my first daughter was born. So yeah, definitely a bit of experience there. And we've got a team internally that have some good knowledge to be able to share with our partners as well. We can also organise trials like Derek was referring to for those larger opportunities. So let me just have a quick skim of the questions. Okay, so in terms of Dragon Medical, Soft Solutions does not distribute the Dragon Medical product, but Chris, I can come back to you offline about where you can source that, etc. The purpose of today was to look at the core solution products.
And Megan, I wasn't actually thinking of the medical product itself, but a lot of our GPs use the normal professional product to dictate text into a practice management system. So, you know, just is that okay? Was really the question.
Yep, absolutely. So the key differences, and this brings us a little bit to, there's also a New Zealand legal version of Dragon, which is available as an individual or a group product. With medical, we do see just the standard Dragon products being used. The key advantage of using, say, a Dragon medical product is it's got that additional vocabulary and intelligence behind it that has been built into it, which is the same with the legal. So The legal edition we have here in New Zealand is a specific New Zealand legal edition. There's an Australian version and then there's a US version and UK, because obviously the legal systems are all a little bit different and the vocabulary is a little bit different as well. But I do know of a number of GPs that use it to just talk directly to medtech from a professional individual product, that type of thing. The Power Mic that you saw a few moments ago is very good in both the legal and the medical markets as well. So there's certainly no issues. I mean, the key with Dragon is that if there is a flashing cursor, you can dictate. It comes down to what we call natural language commands of how you can tell Word to select bits and pieces and bold that and delete that and move that and all those types of scenarios. You heard partway through Derek's presentation there around working with digital voice recorders. So yes, it does integrate with Olympus dictation, as well as we see more people today using their mobile phone to work with that. And if you need help on how to set that up, we can point you in the right directions there as well. That's all the questions I've got so far. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. You can reach out to myself on megan@softsol.co.nz if you think of something after this webinar. We're also going to put the recording of this up onto our Soft Solutions YouTube page, so that will be available as well.
Okay.
So Derek, we'll get you to jump into a quick demo there.
Sure. I just need to share my screen, I think. Let me just see if I can do that. Okay, what can we see at the moment, Megan? Are we getting...
Yeah, we've got the Dragon Legal Group splash screen up.
Okay, just let me change a few screens.
Just while Derek's getting that screen up. In terms of speech recognition, one of the questions that we get on a regular basis is it disruptive in the work environment? My answer to that is it's no more disruptive than talking on a telephone, because it is just speech. You don't need to shout at a computer for it to understand you. In fact, just talking in your normal voice at a normal pace will make Dragon work very, very well. I'm a touch typist. Many moons ago when I was back at school, we learnt touch typing, and I think I got up to about 150 words a minute with my typing, but I've had races with people where I'm typing and they're using Dragon, and Dragon outstrips me in accuracy and speed every single time. And that is purely because today most people don't sit at a computer and just type for 8 hours solid. They don't do that. We flick between our emails and creation of documents, etc. And I use a real combination of Dragon, my keyboard and my mouse, particularly when I'm writing longer emails and documents. And I use a lot of boilerplate. So I have some pretty stock standard answers to different questions about the brands that I look after at SoftSol that I just slot into those emails and save myself a few minutes all the time. So it looks like, Derek, you've got your screen up there. So I'll let you go.
All fingers and toes crossed. Okay, so what you should be seeing now, hopefully, is a normal Windows desktop. Up here in the top right of the screen, you should be able to see what is this little dragon floating window that appears. It's called the Dragon bar. If you move off it, it'll shrink down into a smaller size. The big red button there is a microphone. If you click on that, Dragon starts listening to what you are saying. You can turn this on using the keyboard or using a mouse or even using a voice command if you can't use your hands. So I'm just going to start Microsoft Word and show you a couple of paragraphs of dictation. Start Microsoft Word. So we have a bit of a delay. Oh, okay, so Dragon has decided to disable its content, but that's okay. We have a bit of delay over the network, but basically pretty much if you're using this on the screen, there's a short delay and what you say will come up on the screen. So I can say, welcome to a presentation of Dragon speech recognition, full stop, new paragraph. As you can see, Dragon is lagging a bit today, but the accuracy of recognizing, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, one of the security issues that happens sometimes is that we have a little plugin in Dragon called the NatSpeak add-in, which is actually there and enabled by the look of it, so we should be okay. This is sometimes disabled, and for some reason Zoom is deciding to disable it. So if I just start Word again, and as Megan said, you'll notice you can keep using your mouse and keyboard just as you already did. We have a problem. Houston. Welcome to a presentation of Dragon Naturally Speaking, full stop, new paragraph. Dragon allows you to enter speech into your document at up to 300 words per minute, full stop. That's much faster than you can achieve by typing, full stop. And your accuracy can be very high indeed, full stop. Correct there. Choose to. Select all. Bold that. Italicize that. Make that blue. Right justify that. Delete that. Insert 2x4 table. Select all. Left justify that. Go up. Cap products. Press tab. Delete that. Delete the last word. Select all. Yeah. My apologies, because that add-in wasn't enabled in Word in the beginning, the accuracy for some of the specific Microsoft commands is not there. So the insert table command, for example, is a high-level command that's added into the Word environment that gives you complete accuracy so that you can understand what's going on. Dragon comes with a little word processor built into it that's very simple, and without fail, Dragon will of course work very well in its own window. So if I change the font here, this is what Dragon looks like when it's working as it should be, full stop, new paragraph. As you can see, this time Dragon is completely accurate, full stop. It will recognize what I say and mostly keep up with me, full stop. If I keep talking naturally and then look back, Dragon will be able to work out what I've said and include it in the document, full stop, new paragraph. We say punctuation because it's very hard to work out what punctuation people want to use automatically, and it's much better to actually dictate the punctuation so that Dragon can get it right, full stop, new paragraph. This is the kind of accuracy that you can get in most documentation, and as you can see, it's much faster than typing, full stop. You can really plow through emails and get work done by using Dragon in this way, full stop, new paragraph. So apologies for the glitches this morning, full stop. We had a few issues with Zoom and some issues with the interaction with Dragon, but normally this isn't the case and Dragon works flawlessly, pretty much as you're seeing now, full stop, new paragraph. So let Megan and me know if we can help further with any more questions, and we'd be very happy to help, full stop. Thanks for tuning in today, and we will talk to you again soon, full stop. Okay, so back to you, Megan.
Awesome, thanks Derek. And as Derek has explained there, unfortunately Zoom is blocking that add-in, and that does happen from time to time. I've had it happen to me on a GoToWebinar as well. Which
worked fine last time.
It did. We did test this a couple of weeks ago just to ensure that it was working, but maybe Karen did some magic, who's our key marketing person over in Australia. One key point here is that Derek, you're not Dragon. Derek is based in APAC in Sydney. So he does get across to New Zealand when we're not dealing with COVID-19. He was actually due here the week of our first lockdown here in New Zealand.
No, I was actually due to land about 10 minutes before your lockdown, so I thought I'd cancel that flight.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if there is an interest there, or you think there's an opportunity to present to a group of your customers, we're always open to those opportunities. Obviously, we can do those virtually, or we can do them in person once we get this COVID under control. So Auckland is now 38 minutes into our level 3 lockdown, and the rest of the country is at level 2. But you know, Dragon still keeps working. It doesn't care about lockdowns. So we use that regularly, Derek and I. So is there any more questions that anybody has? Just check. Doesn't look like it. So I think we'll wrap it up there, and thank Derek very much for his time this afternoon our time, this morning Sydney time, and feel free to reach out with any questions that you do have, and I will advise everybody when we've uploaded the video onto our YouTube channel. So thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone for your time today. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Thanks, Derek.